All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Andrea. I'm here with the Community Language Cooperative. You guys have committed to practice language justice so that people can speak and hear in the language of their heart or the language that they speak at home with their families and how they feel more comfortable. We're going to offer simultaneous interpretation in English and Spanish. And after a couple of seconds, after I'm done saying this in Spanish, somebody's going to turn on the interpretation, and whoever is online is going to see a world map at the bottom of their screen where they're going to be able to click and select either English or Spanish. If you are on a phone or a tablet, you're going to find that option by clicking the three little dots or where it says more and language interpretation. I do remind everybody who is going to be presenting that Spanish is at least 25% longer than English. It takes me longer to say the same content in Spanish. So please stretch your words, speak at a conversational pace, very close to the microphone. You guys are in a very large room and sometimes the sound does not come in very well. So please be close to the microphone when you're speaking. If you are on Zoom, mute yourself when you're not speaking. And if you have any questions, you can ask it in the chat. If at some point you're speaking way too fast and I need you to slow down so that I can catch up, I'm going to turn on my camera and I'm going to make this sign, which it just means please stretch your words so that I can catch up in Spanish. Hola a todos, mi nombre es Andrea. Estoy aquí con la Community Language Cooperative para ayudarnos a practicar la justicia del lenguaje en este espacio donde podamos hablar inglés, español y que podamos comunicarnos como nos sentimos más cómodos. Cuando aprendamos de interpretación, vas a ver en la parte inferior de tu pantalla un mapa mundo donde vas a poder seleccionar tu idioma. Si estás en tu teléfono o tableta, por favor, dale clic a los tres punticos o donde dice More y selecciona tu idioma. Mantente en silencio cuando no estés hablando, habla cerca a tu micrófono cuando sí estés hablando y si estás hablando muy rápido, voy a hacer esta señal que significa estira tus palabras para que yo pueda desatrasarme en lo que estás diciendo. Thank you, and we can begin interpretation now. Please make sure that you select your language once the interpretation is on.
If anybody here has mastered the simultaneous recording in both languages, we have an app that actually pulls the audio and overlays over, but mastered how to simultaneously record both, please let me know. We're good? Good? All right, awesome. Well, thank you for your patience with us. My name is Deborah Brown. I'm the Executive Director of Good Business Colorado. We're a grassroots organization of values-driven business owners working to build more prosperous, equitable, and sustainable Colorado. We have just under 450 members in 33 counties across the state, and I'm so proud and grateful to have many members represented here today. So you're here for our Lunch and Learn series, our Helping Good Businesses Be Better programming that aims to meet business owners where they are and provide access to educational programming, a peer community of practice, and wraparound support that enable them to make your good businesses even better. So today's event is the fourth of our 10-part series. We're hosting these events in communities across the state. This is actually our first Denver metro area event. We've been to Durango and Fort Collins and Grand Junction. We're grateful to be here today. As you know, we're working really hard on our language access, and so that's also something we're really committed to and learning. We'll be covering a wide range of topics. Today's event, of course, aimed at supporting sole proprietors and business owners in financial wellness for themselves and their employees. And the topics range everything from improving hiring and retention practices with the Good Boss evolution to improving environmental impact. I would like to thank our sponsoring organizations without whom we literally would not be here today. We have our series presenting sponsor, which is Bank of America. And Erica couldn't be here to join us today, but wanted me to share that Bank of America is guided by a common purpose to help make financial lives better. They focus on clients managing risk well and making sure growth is sustainable. To be sustainable, they share success with the communities where employees live and work, which includes driving progress on societal priorities, including those broadly defined under the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, poverty, hunger, education, affordable housing, and other key areas. Locally in Colorado, every year they support nonprofits through grants, sponsorship, volunteers, and financial education. As part of this work, they developed strong partnerships with nonprofit organizations addressing issues fundamental to economic mobility, racial equality, and social progress in low and moderate income communities. The series offered by Good Business Colorado is a great example of how businesses can join together to create an economy that works for everyone while achieving success for our planet, communities, employees, and the bottom line. Enjoy today's program. And I'm very excited to have joining with us GBC member Susan from Alpine Bank, presenting sponsor for today's event.
Yeah, thank you. And for those of you who don't know Alpine Bank, we're a Colorado native. We're a community bank that's been around for 50 years.
Do you want to just to make sure everybody online can hear you as well?
Okay.
Thank you, Susan.
Yeah, so we're Colorado born and raised 50 years ago and fairly new to the metro area in the last 5 or 10 years. So we're employee owned. We have an international certification for our environmental management system and have had a green team for over 30 years. And also a very, very philanthropic organization. We provide more money to nonprofits in the state of Colorado than almost any other business except maybe Excel Energy and some really ginormous companies. So triple bottom line focus, which makes us a proud member of Good Business Colorado. And it's appropriate for us to sponsor today because you'll hear a lot about why it matters where your money spends the night. So the investments you probably hear about, it matters where you bank as well. So the advantage of community banks and credit unions are that your money is not sitting in the vault. It's actually providing mortgages for your neighbors, small business loans for businesses like ours. And when investments are needed, it's usually municipal bonds. So you can care where your money's working when it's sitting in an account, which you probably do since you're here. Yeah, you'll hear more about that today. We're happy to be a sponsor.
Thank you, Susan. You also notice on the back of your chairs, you have a nice little goodie bag. The bags are from Alpine Bank, and there's goodies from other sponsors as well. Our thrift stores, Cigna, the Colorado Health Foundation, the Colorado Women's Leadership Circle of Influence, and Delta Dental. And a huge shout out goes to Benzel and his team at Metro Deep. We've got a board member here too as well.
Our board chair is here.
Board chair.
Jackson.
Thank you. And Lindsay with Small Business Majority for helping to organize today's event. And Benzel will be our moderator for the panel discussion. And I just want to briefly mention, in addition to Metro Deep and Small Business Majority, we're working with 33 other organizations to bring this Lunch and Learn programming to the business owners they serve across the states. I'm going to read this list of organizations because they literally breathe, they live and breathe to serve the small business owners in our state. So at the end of the event, you're going to get a survey, which Lindsay's going to tell us more about. And if you take that survey, you have the opportunity to join the list of these organizations that live to serve you as business owners. So huge shout out to the African Chamber of Commerce of Colorado, the Asian Chamber of Commerce of Colorado, Be Civic, Be Local Colorado, the B-Side Fund, the Buena Vista Chamber of Commerce, Feds Finance, Colfax Business Improvement District, the Colorado Black Chamber of Commerce, Colorado Women's Chamber of Commerce, Community Shares of Colorado, the Denver Economic Development and Opportunity, or DEDO, Downtown Colorado Inc., the Downtown Development Authority of Fort Collins, Downtown Grand Junction, Entrepreneurship for All, Energize Colorado, the Greater Pueblo Chamber, Local First Logan County Economic Development Corporation, Metro Deep, the North Metro Denver SBDC, Partnership for Community Action, the Pueblo Latino Chamber of Commerce, the Regenerative Recovery Coalition, Rocky Mountain Microfinance Institute, the Salida Chamber of Commerce, Small Business Majority, Social Ventures Partners, Startup Colorado, the Sustainable Living Association, the American Sustainable Business Council, the Latino Chamber of Boulder County, the Commons, and World Trade Center Denver. Again, these organizations live to serve small businesses, so find out how they can be of service to you. And without further ado, I'll kick it over to Benzel, our MC.
Awesome, awesome. Can we give a hand to Good Business Colorado? I will not speak that fast. She just got an incredible amount of information out in that introduction, and also critically important, right, to our community and who we're working with and how. And our panel is also going to be exactly that as well. So we're excited there. But just to set some context for this conversation before the panel kicks off, it makes their introductions. You know, this conversation, while it is something I think important, right? Like there are some business owners, right? And then oftentimes our employees are not thinking about retirement, right? Is they're in the hustle and bustle of daily life, right? And there's this need to begin to set a culture, right? Where right now we have the opportunity, we have some phenomenal resources that we're going to hear from today, but we have this opportunity really to start thinking about our small businesses, our medium-sized businesses, as something that can change the overall wealth, to be honest with you, right? The overall wealth gap, the overall gaps in how society works as we think about not only employing people, right? But setting them up for success in their lives, in setting them up for generational wealth to occur, right? And as we bring in more diversity, we know that becomes even more complex, right? And how we do so because those tabletop conversations haven't happened, right? The dinner conversations in the same ways oftentimes, right? And so as employers, right, as small business and medium-sized business owners, we have this opportunity really to give what we know as owners, right, and what we're setting up in our exit strategies, right, to our employees as well. And so we just think that that's incredibly important. We will have some follow-up. We will ensure that you all have an opportunity to ask some questions and that you're of the panel and or even the larger series, right? So with that being said, with no further ado, I really want to be able to pass on to our panel and go from there. So I really want to start with you and just your introduction, because you framed this so beautifully in our conversations already. So if you would just take 5 minutes to introduce who you are and what you do, and how this conversation is important in your life.
Okay. Thank you, Benzel, for the introduction. Is this logistics check? Is this where my PowerPoint is as well? Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Good Business Colorado, for hosting all of the sponsors. It's an honor to be here on the panel today. My name is Whitney Rojo, and I was in education for a number of years before I switched to finance. As an educator and as a lot of the clients that we work with nowadays, you put others before yourself. And that's why I choose to work with business owners, because they often have that same heart of putting others before themselves. So we really need to look at, what does it mean to be equitable as a business owner? What does it mean to be forward thinking for the people that we are leaders for? The history of economics is one of trauma. And so a lot of what we do, what I do, that I'm very passionate about with my firm at Lagerborg & Associates, is we really take a look at how can we make sure that we're helping leaders, business owners, professionals to reach their fiscal independence goal, to pass on generational wealth. And also, how do we help them to think through their role, which is a powerful role. I'm so excited for some of our panelists to talk through, because you'll see examples of this happening today. How can we set up something that is sustainable and meaningful for the families that we serve in our community, the ones that are right here in our firms and our organizations that we're part of? So that's what brings me here today. That's why I do the work that I do. I'm all about love, money, and liberation. And at Lagerborg & Associates, we work to empower our clients to do just that. And hola a todos que están escuchando en español. We speak Spanish too, so come on over and see us. I'm gonna jump right into my panel. That was my spiel. My email is right there too, so reach out. I'm always open for questions. But when you're a business owner, you are really thinking about 4 areas. Can I stand up? You don't mind if I stand up? Yeah, okay, cool. From the mic, I'll stay by the mic. There's really 4 areas that you're thinking about when you're a business owner, okay? The physical assets of the business, the employees, that human capital, that's where we really like to put our focus. How are we taking care of that human capital? How are we making sure that we're using that efficiently for the mission of our business, right? The business itself, and then the business owner. I started off by saying that business owners are people who often think of others before themselves. That's actually a huge piece of our planning with businesses, is how do we set up our owner, our key employees, for being able to take care of their own family, their own fiscal independence, as they're thinking through their employees as well. Next, Jason. So these are the 3 ways that we're really thinking about, you know, how we can support our employees, okay? These kind of planning processes we do at Lagerborg & Associates, but we do not, I don't have time to, they only give me 5 minutes, y'all. They only give me 5 minutes. So I'm just gonna focus on business planning. You can see I can talk for a while if you let me. But we think through benefits for our key employees. How do we make sure that the business is running if something happens to someone who's super important for the functioning of this business? How do we make sure that we're prepared for that? How do we make sure that we're taking care of our employees through the benefits that we offer? And then retirement. We want to think through retirement. Why? Why care about employee benefits? It's just the right thing to do. It's the right thing to be able to empower those, and especially, I don't know if you guys saw that the minimum wage is raising in Denver. I just saw that come out recently. How do we make sure that as we're giving a little bit more into the pockets of our community, that we're also helping them to plan for the future? It's hard to plan for the future if you're the person that's living day to day, check to check. If you're the business owner, you have a unique position of power to be able to help think through that. We want to be competitive, and we want to attract and retain employees. We can actually go to the next one too. We're gonna jump ahead. These are all the different things that we're thinking about as a business owner. Depending on where you are in your business, you're going to be thinking about these things in different areas. The business planning, the personal planning, and then the exit planning when you've got a more mature business. So regardless of where you are on this continuum, I love the image of a seed, because not only does that seed just sprout into a plant, but businesses that have an impact on the community, they also create seeds that also start to sprout. And so when you can be that list of names that we just heard Debbie read to us, you are a seed in this community. They're planting seeds right now. So in the startup phase, you've got a lot of watering to do. We're thinking about liabilities at that point, right? If you're at the transfer, there's a missing R, my apologies.
Oh, it's on the next line.
Oh, there it is, it just got cut off. If you are at the transfer phase, if you're thinking about exiting, you're starting to think through different tax efficiency purposes. You're starting to think through distributions. You're starting to think through business interests. You probably have a team that already has some business interests involved in what you're doing. So at each stage, you need to have a team thinking through and helping you figure out how to be the most fiscally independent and socially responsible that you can as a business owner. So thank you. Did I hit my 5-minute limit?
I think we did well.
Okay. It's a tough squeeze.
It's clear that Whitney started as an educator and just transferred that education into the financial sector. And we're so grateful for you, Whitney, and all of your partnership and as you show up. Thank you so much. Next, we're going to have Jervis, the CEO and founder of Cooperative Bridge, speak to us, and then he also has some comments from Megan as well that will go there as a business owner that's working with him. So,
Thank you, Benzel. I'm going to come up here because it's weird to stare at that and talk to you all. You can go ahead and jump to the first slide. So we started Prosper Bridge, Maggie and I, because we recognize that for most people, the financial system is fundamentally broken. And we really wanted to fix some of those things. But what we ultimately realized is that just by participating and by doing what we thought was good work, we were actually contributing to some of the injustices and perpetuating some of the harm that we were trying to heal. What I wanted to talk about today, and I'm so honored to be in front of a GBC audience and with this amazing panel, what I wanted to talk about is how thinking a little bit more intentionally about benefits and pay and how that relates to savings and retirement can really be helpful for you and the people that you lead. Go ahead and jump to the next slide, please. And you can click it one more time. So this is a chart from the Federal Reserve, and this is a great example of what I was talking about. I want to call your attention to the rightmost data on this slide, defined contribution retirement accounts. The bulk of those assets are employer-sponsored plans. And I don't think that most employers put a 401k in place because they were trying to perpetuate and exacerbate systemic racism. However, that's clearly an outcome of defined contribution retirement accounts. They're one of the largest drivers of the racial wealth gap. And why is that? It's because a lot of people don't yet have the luxury of thinking about retirement. So if you're providing retirement resources and you're investing in retirement resources for your people, how are you meeting the immediate needs of the folks who can't yet really afford to be contributing to retirement because they're so focused on today? Next slide, please. And you can just click through till there's 3 bullet points on both sides. So what does a more intentional compensation strategy look like? There's really 2 components to any good compensation strategy to helping your people convert their income into outcomes. First is you need to have quality resources, cash and non-cash. That's in the HR world, they call it total rewards. That's everything. It's your benefits, it's your learning and development, it's rewards, incentives, recognition, and salaries and wages. Next is any benefit you're providing needs to be relevant and valuable to your people. It's got to address immediate needs. Saw a great post on LinkedIn that went viral, has something like 50,000 reactions about a woman that scrapped all her benefits. They were all traditional benefits that everybody says you should have because she realized they weren't useful. And she instituted benefits that were directly useful to her team. That's the right way to think. And third, they need to be fair. I'm not anti-retirement plan, I'm pro-retirement plan. I spent 13 plus years as a financial planner. Bless your heart. But if you're providing a matching incentive that's based on salary percentages and you're investing, by the way, the average employer invests about $3,600 per employee in their retirement program, make sure that you are also helping the folks that can't access that vehicle yet with a resource that's relevant to them. All right, so you're providing these great resources, but the value you're going to get from those resources is 100% dependent on your people's ability to harvest that value. So you can't just give them good resources, you have to help them harvest the value. And that's what optimization is all about. Contextualizing resources means helping your team understand how those resources relate to their personal circumstances. Choosing and using. Unfortunately, our financial system is complex. Benefits are complex. Just the act of selecting and using those things is challenging. You need to help your people with that. And perhaps most importantly, timing and sequencing. The right resources at the right times and in the right order. If you have an employee that's struggling with credit card debt, you don't want them putting money into the Colorado Secure Savings Program, which is an amazing resource, because the funds in there are volatile, and if they end up needing that cash in 3 months and the market's down, they may not have even as much as they put in. So we want to do things in the right time and the right order. Next slide, please. Leaders want to pour into their people. Same thing here, 3 bullet points. Thank you, Jason. And what we found is that most times those resources that are getting poured into people, a lot of them are spilling. They're not being optimized. And that's for 2 reasons. 1, they may not be the right resources. And 2, the people don't know how to optimize them. So what can you do? What can you do to prevent that waste? Number 1, you got to understand your team. You got to ask questions, real, meaningful, deep, personal questions about what their immediate and future needs are. Number 2, you've got to provide resources that are actually valuable. What does that mean? It means the money you're spending on that benefit needs to be more valuable and advantageous than just paying those dollars directly to your people. And in many cases with benefits, that's not the case. And then third, you need to provide the guidance that will help everyone, regardless of their background, culture, lived experiences, language, help them harvest that potential value. Last slide, please. And that's what we do at Prosper Bridge. We help leaders and their people turn paychecks into progress. And Megan from Cactus Jack's, one of our clients, is here to share a little bit about how it's impacted them.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm Megan Mitchell. I own a restaurant up in Evergreen called Cactus Jack's Saloon and Grill. I've been on a journey looking for benefits for my employees basically since COVID happened. It was really an opportunity for us to help these people that were helping us get through this pandemic. I don't want to say it was ever a point where we were going to close the doors, but it got to the point where I was thinking that we were going to lose some employees. But we were able to retain all of them except for one of them who chose to stay home because she felt like that was her thing to do. So we're very proud of that. During that time, I took the opportunity to look for starting on benefits. The Secured Savings Program wasn't up and running yet. But it did lead me into a company called Human Interest. So I went on their website, they're very user-friendly, and I was able to get that set up for my employees. During that same process, I found Good Business Colorado. It was through Colorado Restaurant Association, to Resilient Restaurants, to Good Business Colorado, to then Prosper Bridge. So I've been on, like I said, this journey for a while. But what Prosper Bridge in particular has been able to do for us is to sit down with my employees who don't have much, but they are struggling with their bills on a day-to-day basis. Most of them pay 70% of their income towards rent. So I thought that housing would be a good issue to also get into, and especially in Evergreen, where we need workforce housing. So Jervis and Maggie stepped in and they became my HR department. And at first, I really had a couple of people jump on board and it worked out really well for them. But, like probably more than half of them just don't have the time. And one of the things that Prosper Bridge, I guess, requires is that you do it while you're working, which in the service industry is really difficult to do. So we're like, we'll pay you, just go home and do it. And I think that that's been a little bit more successful. But what I've also done is take a calendar and had them sign up with me. So I actually have to sit down with them and get them focused on that. So Prosper Bridge basically has done my HR for me and it's changed my employees' attitudes to the point where they don't stress out as much as they do. I can tell their difference in their work ethic too. So thanks to Prosper Bridge for that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So Whitney and I have had lots of conversations around this service, and I just got an opportunity to really have a conversation yesterday and talk about what we need to do in order to revolutionize, right, and break even sometimes the systems. And so next we're going to have Treasurer Young, right, talk to us, Dave Young, about what is happening at the systems level in Colorado that is also breaking part of that system that has always existed. So, Treasurer Young.
Thanks, Benzel. And I'm going to stand as well, because if you read all the fine print up there, you'll see I actually was an educator as well. So we followed, Whitney and I followed a similar pathway. I won't go through my entire career, but it is my honor to sit with Norm Franke on the para board, president of Alpine Bank. And so in my day job as treasurer, I'm one of 16 trustees on the para board. And also as a state treasurer, working really hard to lift people across the state to make sure that people are on a better financial pathway. I think that's a legitimate role for the treasurer and one to take seriously. So let's dive in. I have Hunter Rayleigh and Anna Stevens are with me as well. And the deal with Hunter and Anna is they're going to jump in and embellish or correct whatever it is I say along the way. But you know, we have a retirement savings crisis here, not only in Colorado, but in the country. And the problem is that people don't know how to get started. And we actually did a study the first year I was in office in 2019. We discovered that there are over 1 million people here in the state of Colorado that don't have access to retirement savings at work. And as a result, they're not saving. Now, we're not trying to overrun any business that is currently offering a retirement savings plan. Good for you, great job. My goal is savers. And we have a problem because if we don't have savers, if the people are not prepared for retirement, here are people that work an entire career, are productive, and then they retire and they're driven into poverty. That doesn't make sense to me. If you're a productive contributor to our society, we should figure out ways to make sure that you have a dignified and sustainable retirement. And we actually did one of the studies was the cost of doing nothing. If we don't do something about this as a state, we're faced with enormous safety net services bills for people because, you know, they're going to need support for healthcare. That's not just Medicare, it's also probably Medicaid as well. They may need housing supports. We know we have an affordable housing problem right now, and it's going to continue if we don't do something about it. Maybe even food security. So we've got a lot of issues there. And we actually totaled up, you can see on the slide, when you combine state, local, and federal impact, that's $18 billion over the next 15 years. Now, before I was treasurer, I was in the State House. I was actually the last 4 years on the Joint Budget Committee. We fashioned the state's budget year after year. And trust me, that money's not in the budget. So if we don't do something about this, Coloradans are going to have to be faced with a value proposition. Do we value our people? Do we present taxpayers with an $18 billion bill? Or do we find a different trajectory for people? And so next slide here. What we looked at were other states that were doing something about this. We discovered Oregon, Illinois, and California were a little bit of ahead of us, which was kind of nice because they were very supportive and told us the right things to do as we were thinking about planning this out, and also shared some of their mistakes and what not to do. And what we landed on is a public-private partnership that generates an auto IRA opt-out program. And what we really discovered was savers have a hard time getting started. So we're using a little behavioral economics, and we're saying we're going to start people in the program. It's still voluntary. They can opt out. But what we discovered in the other states is about 70% of the employees stay in the program and continue to save. Now, we still have an issue there with those that opt out. We really need to address, but it does change the trajectory. So you can see the details on here. I'm going to stop for a second. Hunter, Anna, do you want to jump in and offer additional comments here?
I think you got it if you want me to walk through the basics, but I think you got this under control.
Or, you know, is that a 1 minute or I'm number one?
Well, I think absolutely. We're going to try to make sure that you stay here. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Yeah.
30 seconds.
All right. Very good. Well, I don't know. The details are there. How many more slides do we have?
Like 4 or 5.
All right. Let's go through. I really want to, emphasize this, that we are not requiring businesses to purchase a private retirement plan. And so secure savings is free. But as I said, we are not trying, if you already have a retirement plan, we're not trying to overrun that because the goal is savers. And that's ultimately our job. So next slide, please. Some who qualifies as employees and employees that don't. And then we say the non-qualifying employees can voluntarily participate as well. So we'll have opportunities for that. Next slide. You want to talk about this one?
I think let's just finish with the last slide of the pilot program. Folks are interested.
Ah.
Keep going. Yeah.
Go for it.
So as the slide shows, We are launching the program officially in January of next year. That's when registration will be open, but we are opening this to a select group of businesses that are interested. The only caveat is it has to meet the program requirements, 5 or more employees, 2 or more years of business. We will provide technical assistance throughout the process of enrolling, work everybody through the process. If you're in the room and you are interested, come and talk to either Anna or myself. If you're online, that is a hyperlink for a registration page. Just fill out the information. We'll reach out to you.
Can I talk about multi-state partnerships just a moment? I get so excited about this stuff. I just gotta get me going. But, one of the things we're doing in Colorado that's unique, this is budget neutral for the state. There's some front-end costs that we're going to pay back to the state, but savers are essentially offering or participating in this, and their fees are going to fund the program. But you know, there are states like New Mexico that don't have enough savers to launch a program like this. They really want to. We formed a cooperative agreement with the state of New Mexico. They're going to pass legislation in the next session. I'm working with them, Hunter is as well, and they want to partner with us. It'll be the first in the nation, a multi-state partnership. These are accounts that are the owners. These are the employees, right? Not the business owners, and they're portable. So we're pretty excited about multi-state partnerships. We have some other states, which I can't name, that are also interested, but you know, we're very excited about the fact that we are incubators as states, maybe pushing the federal government towards some solutions, but we want them to be appropriate. So I think this is the theme here. How do we do this in the right way? Thanks, Benzo. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Treasury on the hand. One of the things that gets us to this full all over culture shift is that there are levels, right? There's levels to all of this, and how you are acquiring your support. And even starting people, right? We don't have it yet in order to be able to do. The state comes in, right? And that's becomes a level 1 as we, really figure out that comprehensive service. We have organizations like CrossFit Bridge, and we have private consultancies, right? Such as Whitman. And another resource that is, I think, incredibly important and also innovative is the Sunny Day Fund. And so we have Sid, the founder and CEO of Sunny Bridge, who will share next.
Thanks so much, Benzel. And I am in the invisible cloud that is out here. I'm not sure if you can see my face other than this picture, but I really appreciate Good Business Colorado having me here. It was a pleasure to hear all the other panels and eager for the questions as well. Oh, great. Thanks so much, Kalia. So my name is Sid Pila. I am the founder and CEO of Sunny Day Fund, as I mentioned earlier. I understand it's always sunny in Denver, Colorado, so I will go ahead and take credit for that and say that we sponsored that. That's not quite in the tote bags that you all have, but feel free to enjoy that. To build on everything that's been talked about, because I'm an engineer at heart, I like to provide some of the data behind the spirit and emotion that we're sharing today. So within the first slide that I have after this, if you can go to that, I want to talk a little bit about what the savings picture currently looks like across different income levels. So what you are seeing here are the months of emergency savings that people have on hand based on the income that they're earning over the course of a year. So the orange bar is those that are earning less than $40,000 per year. One way to think about that is folks that are earning, less than $22 per hour or so, that they would fall into that category. Blue is 40 to 75K, green is 75 to 110K, and gray is 110K plus. As you would estimate or imagine, of course, we have an extremely vulnerable workforce. When we're thinking about people, like 1 in 5 people, 20% of those that are earning less than $40,000 per year have less than a week worth of savings. The same set of folks, about 26% of them have less than 1 to 3 weeks. If you look at what any financial planner, and Whitney and Jervis can back me up here, will say, hey, try to get to that 3 months of emergency savings, try to get to that 6 months of emergency savings. When we look at those that are earning less than $40,000 per year, I'm afraid I'm telling you that 3 and 4 of them have less than that 3 months of savings that we keep talking about. So when if we can go to the next slide, when we're thinking about our employees and what we're doing for our employees, one of the things that we need to understand and really empathize with is the fact that they are extremely financially vulnerable. And of course, one of the leading reasons that they would shift to another employer is because they would care much more about financial well-being. Like 3 and 4 people would do that. And that 3 and 4 people are also spending at least 3 hours at work each and every single week on their own money situation. And I know that mental health is near and dear to all of us. It's a personal passion of mine as well. But let's just acknowledge again that money is the predominant source of stress for any individual. You can see the impact that it's having here. What the story that I'm painting for you is that first and foremost, we have a financially vulnerable workforce. They don't have the cash for today and tomorrow. And that is impacting what we want to see as an employer, which is good people sticking around, being productive, and being happy where they are. That's what retention, productivity, and mental health mean at the end of the day. So how are we playing a role in all of this? If we go to the next slide, we're doing something called emergency savings. And that's been proven to work in doing 2 things specifically. One, it's been proven to give something that people want. This is what 9 in 10 working adults across income levels, across racial ethnographics, across gender, generations are saying that they want and need. And we just have been grateful to be an accidental leader, if you will, in that space. And if we go to the next slide, the way that these emergency savings then help is exactly the type of things that the Whitney, Jervis, Dave have all been Treasurer Young. Sorry if I informalized you there. I think we're friends now. Have been talking about, right? Like having even just a month's worth of emergency savings on hand, you can see how people carrying that credit card debt, which is on that left chart, goes from 77% down to 28%. This is data from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. It is nonpartisan. It is absolutely objective. You can also see on the right-hand side how people tap their retirement savings, right? You're looking at someone with no emergency savings. 59% of them are unfortunately taking loans and hardship penalties. We don't want that. Why is it bad to take a 401k loan? Well, at the end of the day, you're sacrificing your future income as a result of that, but also potentially unintentionally encumbering yourself from taxes and other things that you're going to have to be susceptible to. When you have that at least a month worth of savings saved up, that drops down to 9%. So this is a solution that we know for a fact works. It's also a level of common sense that exists, I know, but we still struggle with it. So what can we do? If we go to the last slide here, what we do at Sunny Day Fund specifically is we work with you all as an employer to make that process easy, accessible, and rewarding. And Jason, please feel free to click through. So it does start out as a new employee benefit, and it is a program that we set up within your payroll system. And it's a program that exists outside of ERISA, so that's less compliance that you're having to deal with. All your employees will have a post-tax deduction. And yes, there is no tax benefit to this, but think about it again from your employee's perspective. Do I want a 10, 15% tax benefit, or do I want to make sure to avoid a 26% credit card, a 400% payday loan? That is the real decision that people are making. And we're making that clear to them as well, that look, this is a post-tax benefit. It is not cannibalizing retirement savings. If anything, it's protecting retirement savings, as I shared with you last slide. Each one of those individuals, they're receiving a brand new FDIC insured savings account. It is something that already has a 1%, 1.5% by the end of the month interest rate. And this already is amazing because it doesn't have any minimums, any penalties. If you are having any work opportunity tax credit employees, for example, we're not running credit checks to give this bank account to that individual. That's financial inclusion at work. And essentially, we're acting as that muscle between the world of payroll and the world of banking to make sure that your employees achieve their intent of financial stability and financial freedom. So that's a bit about us. I hope that I shared some interesting data with you and look forward to your questions later. But the contact information for us is in the slide right after this, but you can always reach out at sid@sunnydayfund.com or contact@sunnydayfund.com. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sid. And next, we're going to hear from Sean Young of the Financial Health, the CEO and founder of the Financial Health Institute. And it's amazing to me as we think about being in Colorado, having all of these options, right? And why we might want to really exist here and be able to grow here and create national models. And so a lot of what Financial Health is doing is helping to create that culture. So, Sean.
Thanks everybody for having me here today. My name is Sean Young, founder of the Financial Health Institute. I apologize if I'm hopping up and down. I have sciatica, and so I'm navigating some pain. Blah, blah, blah here. Financial Health Institute, this is fundamentally who we are. We're interested in decision-making, allocation of resources, improved health. My background in all this, I came out of the retail world, started with Walmart. I did the whole .com thing and ended up in Starbucks. And I found myself working a lot with young adults who were coming out of the, who were coming into the retail market. And what I found a lot of times in terms of retention was that the young adults I was working with, it wasn't so much that they didn't understand the idea of setting an alarm clock. They didn't have the life skills that they needed in order to help them be better prepared to show up for work. So I started creating little seminars for my employees off the clock to come in and start taking classes about basic life skills, fundamental life skills, civic education, financial education, and workforce education. And those three caveats, we got together and all of a sudden we started to see people who were taking those classes. We saw the turnover start to go down. I had a brilliant idea. This is 2007. I started a nonprofit organization.
That was a brilliant idea.
Everybody laughs now. Started a nonprofit organization. Financial Health Institute started off teaching those three categories. I really got lumped very quickly into financial education. And what I found very quickly was I was being asked to come out and work with people who were experiencing homelessness, people with mental health, substance abuse issues, people in the IDD community, refugees, immigrants, people who are really struggling economically, experiencing economic stress, economic trauma. And what I found was, and there's no, just bear with me here, the financial education programs that exist in the world are created through a lens that is really middle and upper class, and they don't meet the clients where they are. And so I spent about 18 months throwing curriculum out the window, just talking to clients who are homeless and saying, going back to your point, what's applicable, what's relevant, what do you need today, right now? And we started building curriculum around those particular needs. And so we've been doing that for 15 years now, working with your most vulnerable populations. These are people who are on food stamps, who have work requirements. These are people who are on SNAP, that's people who are on TANF, people who are on, who are going to your workforce centers. And we, over the years now, we are across the state of Colorado and we have representation in 12 different states. What we found along the way is not only was the curriculum that were being created not really meeting the clients where they were and how do we fix that, but we found that a lot of the people who teach clients were actually re-traumatizing clients because they didn't understand how to work with the clients they were working with. And what does that mean? Well, they're coming at it from a very neoclassical economic point of view, which is we're all rational people. And if I give you the right information, you're going to see the value of that information. You're going to make the changes. How many of you guys know to spend less than you earn? Do I need to tell you that? I don't need to tell you that. Clients that we're seeing, they've heard that 40, 50 times. Now they feel like ostracized, they feel othered, they feel all sorts of different things, and they don't want to listen to you anymore. So what we started doing is we started working with the people who work with the people. right? So now we're working with the case managers, we're working with workforce development people, we're working with the employers, we're working with the people who work with the people so that they don't re-traumatize the clients. If you go to the next slide, I have no idea what it is. So somebody brought this up, I think it was our gentleman on the last call. Money, stress, and health. Money is the #1 cause of stress in the United States, year after year after year. Stress is one of the #1 factors in health-related issues, year after year. #1 cause of bankruptcy in the United States is medical-related debt. This is what we're about at the Financial Health Institute. Can we slow this down? Can't eliminate it, but we can slow it down. Next slide, please. Our model is click, 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 all the way to the end of this. Most programs focus on income. There's an assumption of income. When you look at most financial literacy programs, the beginning is that you have income. Most of the people I'm working with do not necessarily have income. So the idea of saving starts with the concept of belief, right? You can't start to save money if you don't believe that you have any money. So the first thing we have to do is we have to start understanding the full context, the full economic human that they are, which includes all of these I love that you brought up non-cash, all these non-tangible and tangible assets. 1 minute. And so what we want to do is we want to help them stabilize all of these things up here so they can get to a point where they can stabilize the income, begin to believe that they can save money so that savings and investment and retirement actually has meaning in their lives. Next slide, please. So I won't go into the Sunny Day Fund guy. I can't remember his name off the top. Sid. Sorry, Sid. I love it. He had something there about behavioral economics. We spend a lot of time talking about behavior. We talk about context. We talk about the family that you grew up in. We talk about individualization. We talk about all these things and we make it specific to the individual and not some cookie cutter that a person has to fit into, that this is relevant to you. You can begin doing it now. We've worked with people on fixed incomes and taught them how to actually begin to save money, even in the context of what we're living in Colorado. And so you guys all probably know a lot of those funky terms, but these are the things that are getting in the way of our people actually making some of the choices that we think they ought to be making, okay? So I think that's it. Is that it? Oh, yeah, don't worry about that.
Love it, I love it. So we are very, very important to us is a survey that is going to go out that keeps us engaged, involved. Lindsay will talk about that here in just a moment. But just to close this, one thing I did not do is like really introduce myself, member of Metro Beat. And so I'm the founder and chief visionary officer of Metro Beat. And I think that it really moves well into what Sean just shared with us, what Sid, and really all across the table, right? Is we focus very specifically on the Black community, serving the Black community, right? And that exact same context that you're talking about, like oftentimes these things re-traumatize, right? As we talk about economics, that's how we develop our curriculums, right? Programs as well as our overall economic agenda. So we do stuff around entrepreneurial development, workforce and career development, and youth development, really to create a future orientation as well as that education and support, navigation, TA, all of those pieces. As we build a larger economic agenda, really around real estate development and investments, investing in businesses that are really high potential and high yield, and then real estate so that we own our homes, right? We own our businesses and we own land that enables us to become producers rather than just consumers. And we work really with partners. And so I'm like excited as I thought about this panel and what's possible as we have all of these options, right, that fit our businesses best so that we can serve our employees in such a way that enables us to retain, right, those people over time and enables us to really build a different culture where we're all thriving, right? We're all thriving and we have the tools in Colorado to be able to do that so that we have, businesses that are coming out of Colorado that are not only in Colorado, right? And so enable us to grow in different ways, but enable the people that we work with to really create a legacy, right? At the the end of the day, our people that stand up at our funerals, at our 80th birthday celebrations, they're the ones, right, that are going to say who we were as owners, right, as individuals, as people. And so we have that opportunity as we have people working with us to do so. We have the tools and resources right here. So with that being said, I want to pass on to Lindsay just to do this so we respect your time. Those of you who need to go exactly at 1 o'clock, feel free to do so. However, we will be here until 1:30 for some Q&A of the panelists and anything else that you need to know. So please, Lindsay.
Yeah, huge thank you to our panelists and huge thank you for everyone who's on Zoom and here today. Really, we have carved out some time for Q&A and for some comments. I know we heard from a lot of folks, but we do want to hear from you all. But before we do that, for the folks who need to leave at 1, and for those on Zoom, please, 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 please fill out the survey. If you're in the room or on your computer, you can point your phone at the QR code, or on Zoom, we're going to put a link into the chat. Or if we're in person, we have physical copies right in here, and there's a pen in your notepad. But please fill out the survey. This is how we know, your thoughts, your opinions, what we can do better for the next events, and also how you guys get connected to the amazing resources that Deborah read at the beginning of this presentation. So really, again, take a minute, take 2 minutes to fill this out. It's not a lot, but we greatly appreciate it. I also really just want to point out that this couldn't have been done without the folks in this room. So I know everyone said that, but mean it from the bottom of my heart. Deborah has incredible resources as well. And if you want these resources after this presentation is over, make sure you have registered through Eventbrite, or there are clipboards in the middle of this room where you can register, and we will send you all the resources Deborah's going to go over in an email, because I can't do anything with physical copies anymore. They go missing all the time. So again, I'm going to pass it over to Deborah, but thank you so much. And yeah, Deborah, take it away.
So usually we like to do a deep dive of your packets, but we want to get right to Q&A as quickly as possible. So I'll just say, Shelton Capital is kind enough to offer gift cards to attendees in the room and via Zoom. So there's something you can scan if you'd like to be entered into that drawing for a gift card. And then really the resources in here are supplementary to what we've been talking about today, as well as some other programs that we'll be rolling out. So definitely contact us if you have a chance. And I have to at least give a shout out to my team, Andres over there, who's every time we do one of these, it's in a different room with different equipment. Really challenging to navigate. So thank you, Jason, for sticking with it. Benzo, back to you.
I just again want to, none of this would happen without the leadership of Deborah, without New Business Colorado, the sponsors that helped to make this happen, not just today, but this entire series. And so just one more time. And our policy director and the team.
And I really want to squeeze in, I have already gotten emails from small business owners who are attending via Zoom. The contact information will most likely be sent out, but these folks are great resources. Already got 3 emails in my inbox. So be sure if you're in person or on Zoom, reach out to these amazing resources and I will connect you as well.
And just a perfect actual segue to Lindsay as well, and Small Business Majority and the support that they give, the resource that they are to our community and connectors. So thank you for the work that you did. Yes, you can. You can clap for it. That being said, what questions do we have? Maybe let's start. Does anyone have a question online? That is, yes. Anyone online have a question? Let's open up there for our first couple. Yeah. Are they able to say anything? Yes. And I will say is the first person we're starting, if there are any things in the technology, depending on how that works, please feel free to enter questions that are not being answered into the chat. We will do our best to save that and then pass that to our panelists to be able to answer after and then be included into the email. But I'll give maybe 2 seconds. I am patient.
I'll jump in for someone that did ask a question earlier. It says, I'm a new business owner. Where do I begin to provide retirement and benefit plans to my employees? I believe this is Kalea calls, and there was a question specifically around the secure savings program. Is there a specific website that we can share with her and others?
Yeah, go ahead.
So the Colorado Department of the Treasury has the program board website via ours. It's a little bit difficult to navigate. It's under programs or boards and commissions that we oversee. We are doing a soft launch of the program website later this month that will have FAQs and all of that stuff. If there's interest in the pilot, feel free to reach out to myself directly, and Lindsay or Deborah, I guess, can send around my email, or the packet that with the PowerPoint has a hyperlink to the Google form where we're taking submissions.
So also we will send electronically each of these resources because anyone that was speaking today can help you onto that path. And so you will have that in the follow-up email. Please save that email because it's full of resources.
And this is Dave Young. Did we answer that question sufficiently?
She says yes.
Okay, great.
Thanks for navigating the chat in there.
Yeah.
We can't see them on the panel, just so you know.
Understood. I'm happy to step in with one more. This is for Prosper Bridge. Are you able to answer specific questions about SEP IRAs, 401k, et cetera? I've got very confusing info from Fidelity, Accountant, and IRS, and would like to sit down to talk through this with someone. Any panelists, I think. This is from Sarah L.
Yeah, absolutely. Prosper Bridge can help with that. I think Whitney can almost certainly also help with that. And the financial resources, I imagine, are being distributed online in your packet. There are some other GBC members that can assist with those questions. Depending on the size of your company and how many full-time employees you have, you want to be really cautious about over-investing in retirement plans, particularly 401ks.
There's us.
Look at that. I love these owls. By the way, if you do not have an owl for your group meeting, get an owl.
That's crazy.
It's amazing. In the room, do we have questions? Thoughts? Yes, sir.
Question about that force Jews, there were no temporary lines, but it said that it was voluntary. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. So
Hunter, you want to repeat the question? I'm not sure.
Sure. So the question was to elaborate on while pilot participants are we need individual or businesses that meet the program requirements of 5 or more employees, 2 or more years of business. The question was why 1099s or self-employed individuals are not participating in the pilot. The reason is the pilot is really to test our registration system and make sure our record keeping and custodial functions are operating at scale before we open it up to the estimated 950,000 people that need to enroll next year. 1099s are going to have a little bit of an easier time on the enrollment piece, so our system will, you'll register like anyone else, and then you can even connect your bank account to it and just kind of set it and forget it. So the pilot's not so much about interly leg up as it is to make sure that we have a diverse group of geographically industry wide and like in employment numbers to make sure that our system can handle the volume before we go in.
For the employers that have W-2 employees, right? Are they going to be on the hook for a portion of that has to go to that program? That's going to be completely.
So a good question. The question is there a financial cost to the employer in the form of match or for paying to facilitate the plan? Our response is no. This program was designed to be free of cost to employers. We are effectively, the requirements for the employer is to register and enroll your employees and run payroll deductions, and that is the end of your legal obligations with this program. The accounts are paid for like any other IRA, so fees from savers. To Dave's earlier point, we have negotiated a pretty advantageous fee structure as the program scales and grows with partner states. But what that means from a legal perspective with matching too is that the employer cannot match the employee if they are participating in a secure savings program.
If there are more in-person questions, speaking to the mic for the interpreter, sorry, just asking you in the front.
So one important thing I think is we were in conversations preparing for this is that, you know, part of this culture change, sometimes a business, it just doesn't make sense to have W-2 employees, right? Or to have the mass of your employees there. However, when we start to think about these resources, when we start to look at those numbers that Sid shared with us, right? The stress, all of those different things, if we can build a culture, the most that we can, where we are bringing people on as W-2 employees, right? Providing those opportunities to help build their life, certainly a good thing, but we also understand that there's some businesses that just can't work right now, right? How do we leverage some of these resources that we have in order to make that happen as often as possible? Any other questions?
Come on down. Come on down so you're near the mic here. Yeah.
And before you ask that one, are there just so, I mean, we can get into a whole discussion, but are there other questions?
Okay, so this question is a little political, I guess. I would assume a program like this has had a lot of opposition because there's elements of it that could put you in mind of a universal income type of program. So I'm wondering about the implications of a program like this political and how solid is this going to be? We know it's at a pilot phase. Is this an experimental pilot phase where it could go away? Or is this something that has kind of already been set?
I think we can both take it.
Yeah.
So first of all, this, in terms of just opposition or not, the response has largely been positive. So, I mean, there's still a couple areas where it being a required program to participate in, there's some pushback there, but this didn't come out of nowhere. This was a 5-year advocacy process that Lindsay, Deborah, and myself, when I was at Small Business Majority, went through where we have a report that detailed the cost of doing nothing, other options, and the feasibility of the auto IRA program. Anna and our other colleagues have been very active in working with stakeholders, and we found the opposition to be very limited to non-existent in a lot of areas. I think for the big piece that we want to emphasize here is that this isn't the only option. The goal is to improve retirement savings, so whether that's through secure savings or 401k, we're recommending that people talk to a professional and review their options. And to the final point, when we're talking about wealth building, this is sort of a rising tide lifts all ships type scenario of, if we get people saving, to put it simply, it's a lot easier for people to do stuff with money than without it. Longer term, through a default or Roth option, particularly since a lot of these savers may be kind of on the cusp. The advantage there is there's no penalties if they have to withdraw. We wouldn't recommend it, but if they have to, there's no penalties. And because it's post-tax, they're saving money that they don't have to pay taxes on when they start withdrawing it in retirement. So in so many words, this is really just to get people on the right track. And then, you know, in 5-10 years, once it starts maturing a little bit more, we'd like to reevaluate options and see, create a structure where, you know, businesses that may have been sitting on the cusp but don't really know how to get to 401k providers or something like that, how we can start expanding options and providing more robust benefits.
Can I respond as well?
Yeah, please.
So, you know, the political issue is always interesting, but I think the germ of the seed of the idea here for this actually came many, many years ago from a Republican and a Democrat sitting down together going, how do we solve this retirement savings program? So I do believe that this is a program that helps everybody, regardless of what party they're in. When I've seen opposition, it's because people didn't really understand what was going on. I will just say right now, there is a Republican treasurer in the state of Pennsylvania, Stacey Garrity, who is actually trying to launch the same program there and is using all the talking points I used when I was trying to get the bill through in 2020. So, you know, this again is really bipartisan and nonpartisan in its approach. We have the experience of other states that have been doing this now, Oregon, Illinois, and California, and they're still steaming along. They're, you know, bringing more and more businesses and employees into their programs. But you know, it was interesting when we first started to look at this, we did several studies, and one was just to analyze the program. So we had the state of Washington that had set up a voluntary program, almost like the, you know, the health exchange, where somebody could just go pick a plan. And then you had the state of Oregon with an auto enroll program like we're running. And after 3 years, the state of Washington had 300 savers, and the state of Oregon had 60,000.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was pretty obvious what was working and what wasn't working. And as a matter of fact, there's some push in the state of Washington now to maybe go a different direction. So
I want to be clear, as an entrepreneur who does employ people. Mike employs a whole ton of people down there as well. He's actually owns a staffing agency, so he employs a ton of people as well. I think it's a fantastic idea. This is something that's new information for me. As much of a fantastic idea it is, that's why I'm asking the questions. I'm not
sure. So part of what I want to make sure is that we can hear from all of our panelists and we don't get into it. But we will be setting up a meeting. So as you know, your position, please join that meeting with Hunter and Treasurer Young. So we can do that on our way out and have a one-on-one conversation. I don't want to take away from all of our panelists. And I would also be really curious about any thoughts, maybe we just have some closing thoughts if we don't have other questions in the room. Any other questions in the room, please?
Yeah, I have another question pertaining to it's awesome to see so many people and organizations and passions for helping others. Is there anybody measuring the effectiveness and how to gauge when to share, hey, we're doing this and it's awesome, you need to do it too? Because I think the more we share and the more there's unnecessary overlap, the more efficient we're going to be in helping others.
Panel, I know Sid does a lot of it.
Yeah, we track everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I do know that, like, from a Black perspective, Metro Beat has implemented that, so we can really track what that really looks like. but it's specific to a community which doesn't, its data does not exist currently. So,
well, as former educators, we would agree that actually measuring and evaluating is just, let's be sure we're measuring the right things.
It's what you measure moves.
It
So
does.
it's an excellent question.
Yeah.
Hey, this is, oh, sorry, Benzel. This is Sid here. In terms of the measurement on our side, we are focused on the individual's financial outcomes, as well as employer side outcomes as well, because we know that this takes time and money from the employer as well. So making sure that there's a return there that is worthwhile is something that we care about as well. So in our case, we think about that both in terms of the like how many people are using a program like ours, but more importantly, what is that doing to retention? Is it making sure that people are staying past that magic number, whatever that may be for any given company? It could be 6 months, it could be 9 months, those types of things. And we're also tracking, well, how is this impacting 401k loans and hardship withdrawals within that organization? So those are some of the aspects that we've been looking at on our side.
Thank you, Sid.
And with that, I want to get some closing comments from Whitney and Jervis. We didn't get to hear a lot from in some of the Q&A, as well as you, Sean. If that brought up anything, right, what would you want to leave the audience with from an understanding standpoint? And then please grab some more food for those that are here. We don't want to take food home. And it will also give us an opportunity to have some conversations with those in the room, more specific stuff.
You know, out of all of the information that was shared here today, I would say that whatever your situation is, if you're on the line right now, if you're in this room right now, there are next steps for you. And all of us, you know, money's so emotional. It brings up all kinds of guilt and shame and all kinds of things. Money's emotional. So don't wait, just take the next step, whether that's reaching out to somebody to see if you can get some help, whether that is joining this pilot program to see if you can be a part of this, this really big deal that we're kind of like leading charge on federally. If there is something that has aha momented for you in this conversation, take that step, take that action, take it this week. Don't wait, because oftentimes, you know, that circle that Sean was sharing, oftentimes we let what keeps us up at night perseverate, keep going until it becomes an emergency. And then at that point, it's you know, stressful. So whatever that next step is for you, take it.
Don't leave yourself out of that. Please do reach out to Whitney. Contact information is there as well. She's a phenomenal navigator.
For us, I love that last question about measuring, because ultimately money is not an outcome in it ever, right? An outcome is comfortable retirement. An outcome is being debt-free. An outcome is having a comfortable lifestyle. What you want to be thinking about as an employer, and this is very hard, is not just the dollars that you're investing, but are you producing the outcomes that your people want and need? Because if you are, they're going to stay. And if you're not, they're going to leave. And it's really that simple. So what you need to ask yourself is not, can I pay them more, but how can I more efficiently get people the outcomes they want and need? And recognize that those outcomes are different for every single person in your workforce. And you need to make sure you're providing the resources and guidance that give everybody the opportunity for progress and not just the lucky few.
Mm-hmm.
Can I just say one more thing?
Let me hear from Sean. 30 seconds.
Yeah. Oh, I can do it too.
Yes. I like Sid, because he put up the statistics earlier about how much people were, you know, how far away they were from being out of money. And so we refer to it as economic shock. We know that leads to what's called scarcity, which leads to some really funky decision making. And I have, in the past 15 years, I've witnessed so many programs come and go that are well-intentioned. And I have to say that I'm hearing things in here today and this is gonna sound weird, but I actually, they sound good. They sound hopeful. No, I'm sorry, that sounds wrong, but I mean, I've seen a lot of programs.
Doesn't sound wrong. It
Yeah.
sounds like we put together.
Well, no, there's a lot of programs that they come in and they you know, there's this top-down solution that doesn't take the person who's going through it at their where they are. And the things that you guys are talking about today, I actually feel like I can go out and get behind and support and talk about. And I can't wait to interact with you guys more. And if we can be of support to you and the people that you serve, please let us know.
Denzel, I have facilitated a lot of meetings over a long educational career of about 35 years. I want to thank you for how well you have facilitated this meeting today. That's all I want.
There's so much, and there's things that Treasurer Young did not even touch on that Colorado is innovating on it. So just wanting to thank all of you as panelists, and I would want to echo, I think, the hope that Sean has talked about. We have a unique opportunity in Colorado. I believe this beyond measure. We have a unique opportunity to be a national model, right? And what that's going to take, echoing Whitney's statement, is take the next step. Talk to somebody in this room today, get started, right? Follow up via email or whatever needs to happen to those of you online, because with the resources, with the people, with the combination of things that's here today, right? And what can happen even beyond that with the leadership of Good Business Colorado and others, right? I think that we have a true opportunity to show the nation what businesses matching and supporting our employees, right, can do to change the entire system and what is existent as our wealth gap. With it 11%, owning 89% of the wealth in the United States. That being said, thank you all. Please meet each other, connect with each other. Please eat food.